Welcome to the Sacred Feminine Power podcast, where we explore the many facets of feminine power and why it is so important for women and for men to step into this power in our world at this time. This is Emmy from Feminine Revered, and my beautiful guest for today is Astrid Madeleine Wyke. Astrid is a legacy architect disguised as a mystic. With over 3 decades of business acumen, building and scaling seven-figure companies, leading high-performance teams, and selling empires she once built from yellow postcards and grit, Madeleine shows exactly what it takes to create sustainable success. But she also knows what it costs when success comes at the expense of self. Now based in Sweden, beneath the golden skies of the midnight sun, which I know so very well from Finland, she works with visionary leaders ready to shed outdated strategies, overgiving, and performance-driven business models, and step into soul-aligned leadership that feels like truth in their bones. Madeleine's work weaves sacred strategy with embodied mysticism. Her gift is helping leaders remember who they were before the world told them who to be. Oh, this is all speaking to me so beautifully already. Welcome, Astrid.
Thank you so much, Emmy. I'm so glad to be here to be dropping in with you.
It's beautiful to have you with us. And Astrid, since my podcast is called Sacred Feminine Power, I love to start by asking my guests, what does sacred feminine power mean to you personally?
Yeah, and I was been sitting with that question since you sent it over, and I just been feeling into it. And as you know, I'm a writer at heart. I really write a lot. So I've been sitting and writing down some notes along the way. So I'm gonna read and also, of course, just speak. But I wanted to just take a moment and really honor the question in a deeper way. And so for me, the sacred feminine power is the magnetic force of creation, the ability to receive without needing to earn, to feel without apologizing for the intensity, and to be still and still move mountains. It's ancient, it's wild, it's unruly in the best of ways, rooted in the earth, rising towards the stars. Sacred feminine power is what awakens when a woman finally stops trying to be palatable and choose to be true. It isn't loud, it's not the performance of power, not the polished perfection of a high achieving mask. It's not about outdoing the masculine, or doing more to prove your worth. Sacred feminine power is the softness that can hold storms. It's the kind of power that doesn't seek to dominate, but to resonate. It lives in the body, in the knowing, in the intuition that speaks long before logic catches up.
Oh, that was beautiful. I was just listening with my eyes closed and feeling every word in my body as well. Thank you for sharing that, and really appreciate that you took the time to process that question in advance and allowed what was coming through for you to be a part of this podcast as well. So thank you. Now, Astrid, I would love to hear from your personal experience about a challenge that you may have faced that's really helped you to activate this power within you.
Yeah, so my unraveling started the summer of 2022. And in hindsight, I realized it happened because I had asked some really big asks of God and consciousness and what I really wanted to call in. And in my mind, I thought it was going to be, a slight turn to the right, and there we would be. But what really unfolded was the complete destruction of everything I built for 25 years. Every identity was being stripped away. From like being the daughter, being the wife, being the business owner that I had hung my identity on for the last 25 years and my business acumen, everything started to be stripped away in the most spectacular way. And as I was trying to catch up or trying to apply the strategies that I've used for decades that had worked for me over and over again, nothing worked. It all just fell flat. And at some point, I just ended up on my knees. and in full surrender. And it was in that moment I really came face to face to the sacred feminine warrior within myself, the mystic, what I call the mystic. And, it wasn't until everything had gone for me, like I just say this, that I'm not very patient with misery. And usually that is the culprit for me. So at some point, I create these huge pieces in my life that helps me to then transform the life that I'm living. And this was one of those moments that just got me to my knees. And it really started to unraveling in the summer of 2022, but it continued all of 2023 and all of 2024. So it's been a long journey of the unraveling and full surrender into not knowing what's coming next, and being in that surrender of not, where the mind is grappling and trying to find and trying to hold on to maybe what was, or some sense of familiarity, and what you used to, but you can't find it and it's not there, and so you have to surrender even deeper. And so that's the journey that I've been on for some time. And it wasn't really until I came here to Sweden in New Year's Eve of 2024 on a fluke. So I was supposed to do a full on, of course, it was on purpose, but not planned, we would put. I was in Tulum, Mexico, hanging out, thought I was going to have a chilled beach vacation, but it turns out to be high season and a lot of rave parties. And I was just like, okay, this is not quite the vibe I was going for. And so instead of traveling around to 30+ degree weathers, I ended up in Sweden with a carry-on with only summer clothes in the middle of winter. And there was something that just hit me when I got here. It was like coming home to the land itself. And I started winter bathing, which is a tradition here in the north, like as you know. You go into the sauna and you go and dive into the ice cold sea. And this became a ritual for me that I was doing almost every day, back and forth, and becomes this meditative, amazing experience that just brought me back into my body in such a powerful, powerful way. And I mean, you from Europe, and you grew up in Finland. You know our cultures are so similar, but just walking around on the castle walls and hanging out in the forest. We have these amazing beach forests here, and then the ocean. There was something that just my ancient culture, the Viking culture, the I in the Viking tradition, the shamans traditional are female, and they named vulvas, which I just find amazing, of course, right? And so I just felt so called to be here and called forth in this place, and diving into the ancient mysticism that is in our culture that hardly anybody ever speaks to. And from there I just abandoned the mind completely, and all decisions is now just made through the body and through my feminine power. And part of that was just stripping down the pieces and really getting into the land and the nature, and also living with the light. So the light in the north is something that you can't find anywhere else in the world. It's completely spectacular. So when I first arrived in the winter, the sun wouldn't go up until like 9:30, and then down again around 3:30. And so like 5 hours maybe of grayish daylight in the winter. And now in May, the sun goes up at 3:30 and goes down almost at not until 10 o'clock. And it's not even summer solstice yet. And so there is this thing of just living with the light when you live up here. So all winter, I just lived by candlelight and just follow the rhythm and then spend all this time in the ocean. And then just the awakening of the spring here. There's just something so absolutely magical about this land. And so for me, that was a really big piece of the awakening that happened for me, being here in my ancestral land.
Mm.
Mhm.
Well, it sounds like you are reclaiming in a very, very powerful way your roots and that cellular memory of those lands. It's very, very beautiful and powerful. And I've lived away from Finland for most of my life, but I still consider it very much my home. And whenever I go there to visit, there's this beautiful, deep connection to the land, to the waters. And as you say, the light is so magical there.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, you were kind of alluding to my next question in some ways already, but what would you consider what were the blessings of that challenge, that unraveling that you went through?
Yeah, I mean, in as I was going through it, I would say I didn't have a lot of things to hang my mind onto or understand. Like I couldn't understand what was actually happening. And like I said, it was almost a 3-year journey.
Mhm.
And so, now in hindsight, I can kind of piece the things together and see. And that's usually how it is. And I've gone through a lot of transitions in my life, but usually they a month or maybe two. And then there was this big revelation of the path. Or maybe, like, and it's like, so in some ways, I gotten very used to that timeline. But to be in the void completely for like 2.5 years um, was a complete unraveling of on every level of the ego and the identities and who I was. And I had built a tremendous amount of success in my life on my smarts, my intelligence, my mind, my strategy, my tactics. I've been the secret weapon of many of the online brands. I've helped scale, go behind the scenes and build teams and scale businesses. I built and sold my own businesses. And to not have that work anymore was like, what's going on? This is like, this is who I am. Like, what is happening? And now when I'm sitting with it, that whole stripping away allowed me and to really come home to my body and in my feminine power, my sacred feminine power of leading from the inside out and leading from my intuition and my being rather than my doing and my performance and overgiving and overdoing and overperforming. And so now there is a whole different thing, rather where I might have rushed in to fix something or make something happen. It's all about that stillness, being still and still move mountains. There's a level of receiving that starts to happen. And when I was operating a lot in the masculine space, I was moving really fast. I was making a lot of moves. And I was definitely operating in that space of like we call the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of what you do will get you to 80% of the rewards, but you still do the 100%, right? And so now when I'm fully in my sacred feminine power, um, I only do maybe 5%. Like I really just move when I'm being called. I listen. I pay attention to what's happening. So it's to the point now that I like like technology stops working around me when I'm not supposed to use it. Like my laptop crashed. I was supposed to have it back today for our interview. I brought it home. I had it repaired. I brought it home today and it was still not working. So it's like I've had like 10 days where I can't even write and post anything on social media. I can't record post podcasts, right? I can't do my general way of staying connected with my audience and my general transmissions that I do. And in the past, they would have freaked me out,
Mm.
you know? And now there is this sense of just like, okay, surrendering to this, and also then, okay, let me go even deeper into surrender. Let me spend even more time in nature. Let me go even, let me spend more time in the ocean and in the sunlight and in the forest and just in meditation, and let's just like be in the beingness. And so there is this rhythm that has started to unfolding that just comes from listening to what is being called forth from the body, and the mind is now only utilized in a sense of executing on what the body wants done. And so it's just this beautiful dance of listening. And in that, like, let's just talk a little bit about some of the practicalities of how do you do that when you're building a business, because we've been told that we have to kind of market, we have to send out email, we have to do offers, like we have to kind of stay on it the whole time, this whole social media thing. Or if you have a podcast, you need to post a podcast every week, an episode every week. And so you listen to, yeah, if you listen to the Madeleine Wyke show, my podcast, you'll see in my intro, I just let you probably should subscribe, because I oftentimes release like 8 episodes and then nothing for 3 weeks. And then I maybe release 1 episode. And then maybe I release 5 episodes in a row over 5 days. Like, it's very sporadic depending on the rhythm of what feels right. And my audience will subscribe and wanting to stay connected. So it does create this thing. I'm also deeply listening to my audience. So, I mean, you and I, like, we met when I had a post that I wrote about Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and this piece that ended up going viral, and I released it over Easter, and it was shared, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of times on platforms I'm not even on, like it went completely viral. And in a moment like that, I just lean in because there's a natural momentum that's happening. There's an energy that's building. So all these people are showing up in my space. I was getting, like this, podcast interviews, speaking engagements. I was getting a lot of followers and friend requests, and people were like really listening to what I was putting out there and in the sphere. And that is a moment when I just lean in, because there is this energy and momentum that is happening naturally. And then there's a little bit of a lull. Like right now, I don't have my computer. Like there's little things like this. There's a little bit of a lull. And so I think that we don't have to be on all the time. It's not necessary to create momentum, but it is really important to be tuned in to that magic, to the momentum that naturally happens with your audience and with the people that you're looking to connect with. And so these nuances, I was always too busy to even pay attention to before. And there was so much outside chatter that was telling me of how I should be and how it should look and what I had to do in order to be successful. Where now I don't really listen to any of that. I literally just listen to my own inner knowing, what I'm being called to do, what is naturally moving, where's the momentum, where's the flow, and I move in that space. And it's been incredibly humbling, I would say, like really humbling to realize that a lot of the ways that I created my success and built my businesses is really ended up creating something that didn't feel that meaningful. And that took a lot of my energy and time, where oftentimes overgave and overdelivered. And where in the end, I oftentimes felt like I wasn't quite showing up and giving in a way that I knew I had a capacity to give, or really being the channel for the transmissions that I knew lived within me.
Mm.
Um, and so now I really just do those things. So like if you find me even on my podcast, it's more of a storytelling poetic podcast. It's probably not like your regular podcast. And if you find me I write a lot mostly on Facebook and share some on Instagram, you'll see that I have this kind of almost poetic storytelling way of my posts. And so they've written for a very specific visionary woman who knows that she is being called forth to deliver a bigger purpose, that has a deeper calling, that knows that she may have already built success, but and the truth of the matter is you don't have to burn it all down. You can refine it to fit where you are going and supporting yourself in a really natural way. And so those are the people that I'm connecting with now and really helping them to get back into their own feminine sacred power and owning who they truly are and speaking, activating their own voice, the voice that's always been there, but maybe they had silence for many, many years.
Mm. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that is truly walking the path of the feminine, that left-hand path of the feminine. And um, I love that depth of surrender that is coming through everything that you share there, because it is such a big part of that feminine path, especially in a world that, as you were saying, wants us to try and control so much of what is happening in our lives. And that humility that comes through when you realize, mm-mm, I really can't control any of this. And the more I surrender, the more the guidance shines through. And as you said, when you allow the mind then simply to execute what is coming through the body, through the womb space, it becomes very, very powerful. So thank you for living your purpose. Thank you for having had the courage to surrender to that level and that extent. I know it's not easy.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy. The journey here hasn't been easy. Now it's very easy.
Mm.
Now it's easier than ever.
Mm.
Now this is the only way I'll ever do it. It has more meaning, it has more purpose. It allows me to be all of me and fully me. I don't worry about being if I'm too much or if people don't understand what I'm writing or if I'm, relatable. There is this thing of just piercing through of who I am that feels I maybe for the first time truly authentic. And yeah, and I can't imagine doing it any other way now. But it's definitely been a journey to get here.
Mm. Yeah. And you would have been
Mhm.
who you are if you hadn't been been on that journey and experienced what you did in the past.
Mhm.
So I would really love to talk a little bit more about success, because you talked about having had multiple successful businesses and supporting others to get to that level as well. How
Mhm.
are you finding that playing out in what you do now? How is success correlated with the way you are working with what is coming through you in these days?
Yeah, so the success that's come through me now is it's different in the sense that I don't chase it. I don't try to figure out what's going to bring me success. I don't do things in order to get clients. Not in that sense. I do what I like I do it from a place of more like I have a message that I feel is really important for my audience to hear, or a perspective or story I really want to share. Um, and then that comes through, and from that resonance, people find me. And so now there's just so much ease around clients, and because I'm not overthinking it, I'm not trying to figure it out. I'm not analyzing everything and every metric. I'm really just leaning into the momentum that moving already and sharing from this place of resonance and wisdom and my mysticism that I'm finding. And then I do, of course, make offers and I make sales, usually in the DMs, or I have a sales page now and again, and I just send people there and they buy. And and so right now I'm doing these amazing VIP days, immersion days here in the land of the midnight sun, inviting people to the land here in Sweden where we get to like really immerse ourselves in the ocean and sit on a moss under the beech trees and really kind of help women leaders and visionaries to just slow down enough to actually hear themselves and tap back into their own embodied wisdom, really getting them into their bodies. And then once we are there is some wisdom that usually pours out of what the next thing is and what they're actually called to do. And from there, we sit together and we can really map out the path of the refinement. So that's then, again, we'll use the body to call forth the direction, the vision, what matters, what really needs to get done. And then we sit together and utilize the mind and the strategy to kind of weave together and refine what's already there so that we don't just, burn down what's already working, but also refine it and get it to that resonance and alignment with a true calling. And so that whole piece has just been so beautiful, bringing people here and watching their awakening and watching them coming home to themselves and watching them leading from this inner knowing rather than, from the mind, which feels a little bit like a hamster wheel, um, where we're just kind of trying to figure things out and running really fast and not really sure which direction we should go. Um, Once we drop into full embodied wisdom, there is a whole other rhythm that's much slower pace that allows us to truly feel, that allows us to unravel in a way that allows the truth to actually pierce through.
Beautiful.
Mhm,
Beautiful. I
mhm,
love that. Yeah.
mhm,
And I think we are all, whether we're conscious of it or not, yearning for that and
mhm,
that deeper connection to our bodies, to our innate knowing, our wisdom, and allowing that to guide us over anything else. That is
mhm.
really beautiful, powerful work for sure. Astrid, I want to make sure that our audience finds out how to get to know you more and how to connect with you if they'd like to, be part of your mailing list or perhaps work with you as well. So, what's the easiest way for them to connect?
Yeah, so the easiest way, if you just want to get on my email list, so I send again sporadic emails, but all my new offers will show up in emails. So you can go on to wolfmystic.com, wolfmystic.com, which is my website. And on there's a opt-in that you can just opt into and you end up on my email list. So that's an easy way. Obviously, my podcast. You guys are all podcast listeners tuning in to Emmy's podcast. So you can find me at the Madeleine Wyke Show. That's my podcast. And that's a really good place to also kind of listen in and hear what I'm up to. And of course, Facebook is probably, if you want to have a direct connection with me and more personal and day to day, Facebook is a really good place. That's where I usually put out most of my writing. So every morning around I usually get up like around 4:30 or 5 a.m. And I usually write for like 2 or 3 hours every morning. And so you'll see a lot of my writings that shows up on Facebook in every single day. And of course, you can pop into my DMs and you can see my offers on there. And I would love to hear from you.
Oh, how beautiful. Thank you for sharing
Mhm,
that as well. Now, Astrid,
mhm.
is there anything else that's still coming through for you that still would be important to share with our audience?
Ah, that's such a good question. Yeah, there's one thing I really want to talk about, just one little piece. So I feel like for a very long time, people told me that you should, just let go and trust God, or the universe will take care of you, or, just think positive thoughts and you're going to manifest what it is that you want. This kind of like pie in the sky. And what I discovered along this journey is that that doesn't really work very well if you're not in your body. If you are operating from your mind, when somebody tells you that, it feels like jumping off the cliff into like black hole. Like it feels completely insane, terrifying, and crazy. But when you really connect with your own embodied wisdom and you kind of get grounded in yourself, there is a place where you land where you know without a shadow of a doubt that you got yourself. You got you. Like you are not going to lose yourself anymore. And that inner knowing doesn't mean you're not, it's not a doing knowing, it's just a being knowing in your bones allows you to surrender to God on a whole other level and the universe and the path that you're here to walk. So that embodiment piece is essential to be able to manifest and create in this life, in this, to really create from your own wisdom in a very powerful way, and knowing that no matter what, nothing is going to break you.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us as well. And again, thank you for coming on to the show. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us, Astrid. And thank you for being who you are. Just by being who you are spreading so much light and impacting so many lives. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much, Emmy. Thank you for the invitation to be in here. I just love dropping in with you.
Me too. Thank you. Now, everybody, just for a moment, let's bring our awareness to this beautiful, powerful, mystical, feminine energy that's been activated here, and imagine sharing that energy with everyone and everything on our planet. To remember that we are all truly one. And the more we have the courage to step into our sacred feminine power and truly surrender, as Astrid says, the more quickly our planet will also ascend and heal. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, Astrid.